Hey everybody, welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio for another high school football edition of WSAZ Sports Plus. That means let's get Jimmy Treacy in here. We've got our studio decorated for some of the matchups that we've got, and of course, Jimmy sitting across from us.
Orange and orange.
Yeah. What's your favorite shade of orange? I think I remember Keith saying to start a Wheelersburg-Ironton highlight a few years ago.
Pumpkin orange.
And I guess maybe that's a little foreshadowing. Probably going to be our game of the week, huh, Jimmy?
That's a good bet.
Ironton Wheelersburg. Before we get to that, quick little public service announcement. This program is going to start airing at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, so no more 6:30, Jimmy. It doesn't really impact us because we're up here on Mondays recording this thing. But 9 o'clock is when people can find us.
I will set my alarm.
Yeah, set your alarm. You'll tune into the stream, won't you?
Nowadays, at my age, I put so much stuff in my phone. It's like, okay, I better put this in there because I'm going to forget.
Well, you won't have to now. We'll just keep reminding you, That's what we'll do.
That helps.
All right, James F. Treacy III joining us. Let's talk football, Jimmy. Our game of the week last week was Ironton and Jackson. Did you see a 49-10 victory coming on either side of this thing? Because the Fighting Tigers left no doubt out there.
Well, with how much talent Ironton has back, and Wheelersburg beat Jackson just 2 weeks before, maybe not 49-10, but I thought it might be at least a 24-point game because the previous two games between these two teams at Jackson and Ironton was won by the Tigers by at least 14, 20 points. So Ironton is just such a juggernaut right now. The game was really never close. You were there, and sometimes that could be one of those games where Ironton, when they realize they have a lead, is just kind of just step on their throat and just don't let them back in again because that can lead to some dangerous times in football.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Andy Hall and some of the guys on the Jackson staff before the game, and they let me know, hey, Bodie Wolford's not going to be out there for us. And I kind of thought, it was going to be tough sledding for Jackson anyways to try and go into Tanks Memorial Stadium where opposing teams hardly ever win, even with somebody as talented and as seasoned and experienced as Bodie Wolford. But without him, it puts you behind the eight ball even more. It is amazing what Ironton does to really good football teams. That Jackson team's a really good football team. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just amazing what Ironton's able to do.
They impose their will on people. I mean, Jackson could easily go into week 2, even 3 of the tournament. I mean, maybe that's why, you keep Wolford out because they'll need him if they want to accomplish their goals of, possibly a region championship and maybe deep into the Ohio playoffs.
As for the Tigers, they did what they typically do. Caden Edwards threw for 2 touchdowns. Maddox Markle and Braden Baker caught those. Tyler Carmen ran for 2 touchdowns. Kylan Grace, Tyson Harvey, and Easton Cottle, they all had one. The Easton Cottle highlight, Jimmy, did not make our highlight reel, but I put it on social media. If you get a chance, go watch that highlight. He's not a very big dude, but he can move. He's just a freshman. Easton Cottle's going to be the man for Ironton here in a few years. Jackson's a good football team. That's a great win for Ironton, and Jackson's going to be just fine.
Hopefully, have you ever thought about making plans for Canton in December for one of these two teams?
I'm always thinking about it, right? It's always the day of our Christmas party. It's always conference championship weekend in college football. Fortunately, the Buckeyes have not really put a wrench in that, on Saturdays here for a few years, even though we would like them to be there. But,
Yeah, Ironton Jackson.
I see somebody in Canton.
Yeah, they both have also two of the finer stadiums in our area. Tanks Memorial Stadium is what it is, almost 100 years old next year. And Jackson's looks like a small college. I mean, some small colleges in Ohio would love Jackson Stadium. That's how great their facilities are. So, yeah, they got the talent, and we'll just see how far they go in November, December.
Well, more on the Tigers later in the show because we know there's a big matchup in Wheelersburg later this week. But tell us about Huntington's 68-20 victory over Hurricane. You caught a glimpse of that one, Jimmy.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a predicament, but I had 2 games last Friday night, because you relieved me from the Ironton 6 o'clock live shot. It's like, do I go to Huntington Hurricane first, which you kind of knew might be a beat down because Hurricane's just regrouping and trying to reload. Huntington is just downright awesome with great athletes. And there's also Spring Valley Midland. It's like which game do you go to first to get the best highlights? And I think I made the right call. I left it Huntington Hurricane at 21-0. Dante Newsom just went bonkers. 3 carries, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Tavion Wilson, he's such a well-rounded athlete. He plays all sports. He's got a sneaky good arm. He can throw a nice tight spiral if he wants to. And he's putting it in the touchdowns I've gotten from this year. He just puts it in the right spot for the kid to make a fantastic catch. I mean, he had 147 yards passing. He's dangerous. I mean, if he's coming my way, I wouldn't want to be in his way. He's just so physical and imposing. Great kid, too. But yeah, they were as good as advertised, and it wouldn't shock me if they move a bit higher in the SSAC rankings when they come out Tuesday afternoon.
You talk about Tavion Wilson. He hasn't had to play quarterback up to this point in his career. Now here he is playing quarterback for the Highlanders. It just kind of shows you what a smart kid he is in terms of playing football and just overall athlete, because these last few years he was doing other things on the football
field.
He
was playing tight end and a linebacker, and you hardly ever saw him behind center because you're blocking for Zaw Jackson, who now plays at Marshall, and Crawford was the quarterback. He could sling it. Gavin Locko as well. But, Billy Seals is a smart man. If he can say, let's put him behind center and see if you can stop us in one of three different directions, him running, him passing, or him handing off to just the numerous athletes and weapons they have, Huntington High is very dangerous.
Yeah. They're off this week. I'm sure that they'll appreciate the chance to sit, get healthy, rest up a little bit. But then they do have Capital on October 3rd. That's a game that Huntington will be expected to win. But we know that this is a different-looking Capital team. And I'm sure here in a couple weeks, Jimmy, we'll be previewing that matchup, and one that I'm sure we won't miss either.
Yeah, no surprise that they kind of did what they did to St. Albans, 48-0, 2-1. Like it's always interesting in football Friday nights when the Cougars are good. Kind of South Charleston the same way, and just John Carpenter, such a colorful and really good coach, and he seems to get the best out of kids. And he's got athletes too. I mean, David Robinson Jr. is fantastic.
Admiral.
He had 2 great touchdowns last week against St. Albans. So 2-1, they're kind of sitting pretty, but this always happens along those I-64 corridor MSAC teams. At some point, you'll hit a gauntlet, and Capital's coming up. Huntington, they have at home, which is nice. Then go to Spring Valley, up the hill to GW, at Nitro. I mean, those are all 4 fantastic games. They'd love to win all 4.
And plus, they've got South Charleston, which is a different-looking group this year as well, with Donnie Mays back at the helm. Even before you get to that gauntlet, there's South Charleston sitting there, and who knows what could happen in that matchup. We talked last week about how we were excited to get 2 Logan County games on Football Friday night. Let's talk about the first one. As the Logan Wildcats stay undefeated, they beat Wayne 32-6. They're 4-0. They've got wins over Riverview, Tug Valley, and now Wayne. This is Coach Nick Booth's first year at the helm, and quite the start for him there at Logan, Jimmy.
And it's not just the offense. I mean, when you're giving up 6 points per game in high school football, that is fantastic. That's how much they gave up to Wayne the other night. The quarterback, Adam Baisden. I always like seeing high school quarterbacks throw the football because for forever there'd be some schools would be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but when you got a good agile quarterback who can sling it, that makes the game so much fun. That makes scoring a super fun option to have to show on Football Friday night. And Baisden the other night against Wayne, 4 touchdowns, 308 yards. That is certainly impressive, and certainly was to keep it going next week.
Yeah. And he's got dudes to throw to, guys that can make plays. It's not just him, Alfonso Murphy and Caden Justice, just a few of the playmakers they have there at Logan. I think a lot of the folks in Logan appreciated the fact that maybe we were paying attention to him now. You're 4-0. Hard to look the other way when you're doing that, right? Let's go elsewhere in Logan County, though, Jimmy. Chapmanville Regional beats Midland Trail 49-7. The Tigers are now 3-0. They've got wins over Scott, Nicholas County, and as we just mentioned, Midland Trail. Tell us about Dakota Dalton, the kind of night that he had out there, Jimmy.
They had a fantastic evening against Midland Trail, 3 touchdowns, 10 of 12, 199 yards. And you can also, you have a double threat, like it makes total sense when you can run it and pass it. It's so hard for high school defenses to stop. He threw for that much. Then you give off the ball off to Jeremy Collins. He had 144 yards, touchdown, and had 18 yards per carry. That is just dangerous for the Tigers to try to stop that. Numbers like that can demoralize a defense, and boy, I bet it did against Midland Trail when they won 49-7.
And that's making the most of your carries. That's only a handful of carries to average 18 yards. So
I think that's 8 yards a carry, or 8 carries for 8 times 18.
Hey, I'm not the math guy, so I'll take your word for it. Someone else can get their calculator out, but I'm not about to.
It's in my brain. I'll figure it out eventually.
All right, how about Ripley beating Point Pleasant 42-23? That's the battle of the Oaken Bucket. Andrew Colgrove got back and said, man, it was 2-0 at halftime when I left, and then all of a sudden the team scored 60-plus points in the second half.
Oh, that's amazing. Whatever both coaches said at halftime must have worked because, that's a baseball score that we would see those two teams play in maybe in Goatmart Ballpark last May or June. But, boy, to come out like that, Jackson Moore had 144 yards and a touchdown, 2 guys with more than 100 yards rushing on the ground. That certainly can get a lot of points in a hurry when you just sling it and run it like that.
Yep. Cody Lawrence, he ran for 139 yards and 3 scores. Parker Kelly had 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Vikings, they have not lost since that Week 1 matchup against South Charleston there. So maybe they're kind of finally starting to find their rhythm.
Yeah, they could easily be unbeaten minus that comeback by the Black Eagles. So, is that return to prominence for Ripley? We'll certainly see. Point Pleasant, Caden Hill had 277 as well, 2 touchdowns. So be nice to see if Ripley can make a run deep in the tournament.
Yeah, I made the mistake again of posting the highlights at 12:30 at night when I was half asleep, and I actually said that Point Pleasant won this game. And so people were letting me know about it in the Facebook comments. But trust me, we are aware that Ripley won the game. Congratulations and shout out to the Vikings. We'll be paying attention to the blue and white here for weeks to come if they keep doing stuff like that. Okay, how about Spring Valley beating Cabell Midland 24-20? Cabell Midland took a lead late, and it felt like maybe they had the T-Wolves on the ropes, possibly in a chance to get their first win of the year. But big 4th down carry by Zeke Lewis ended up being the difference.
Oh, that was my second game of the night, and that's when I got there at halftime, which I thought it would happen, and Spring Valley was leading, and then Midland took the lead, and it was like at that point it's 9 o'clock, so I got plenty of time to get back to the station and not have to worry about it because Spring Valley and Midland, they ran the ball a lot. That game flew by, so it's like one of those games where you feel I better stick around. Because if I would happen to miss a game-winning touchdown in the final seconds, I might hear it from about 10 people here at the station. The best part about that was they try to run, I think, the previous 2 times on that possession where they took the lead, and they just, on 4th and 4, I think it was, they handed to Zeke. He went hard left, and all of a sudden there was no one around. And he was just chugging to the end zone. You could see how excited his face was when he scored. And then, Midland still had a chance for the win. They had the football, but an interception late in the game kind of sealed it. But that, Midland might be, you hear this all the time, said they might be the best 0-4 team in the state because they're giving everyone a run for their money. It's just a matter of time before they win a few games.
You have to think as well, if you are a Cabell Midland fan, that 0-4 is not the way you wanted to start out, but it feels like they're getting better week to week. They've competed with GW. They had a chance to beat Spring Valley, and they just put out their highest scoring output of the year with 20 points. Do you feel like things are looking up for the Knights?
Yeah, they are. I mean, that can only give you confidence. There's a loss in the column, I get it. But, when you're down 17-6 at halftime, then all of a sudden, after you could put some good drives together, you play some good defense, and all of a sudden you're leading 20-17. And, they got a chance to win this. And, if they stop them on 4th and 4, I mean, they could have run out the clock because there was about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game when that happened. And it wasn't like they were at Midland's 30-yard line. It was, I think, a 60-yard run. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, but, big players make big plays. Zeke did. But, when you look at the film, you can always say, this is what we did right. If we keep doing these things, we'll start winning again. Yeah,
the margins are slim. You can look back to those moments like that 4th and 4 and say, whoever wins this down wins the game.
And I thought Spring Valley might punt because, it's a good kick, puts them inside the 5 with 3 or 4 minutes to go. But, Brad Dingus, he likes to gamble.
He sure does. Well, it paid off for him, right?
They gambled right, and they're so good at running the football. And kudos to that field, too, by the way. One night I might just take my 9-iron and just, hit some chips.
It's always taken care of.
It's so nice.
It's awesome.
It looks like a fairway at Guyan.
All right, how about the Commonwealth, Jimmy? East Carter beats West Carter 41-14. It's East Carter's 4th straight win against their arch rival, West Carter, and Landon Yoke, of course, all over the highlights. I'm not sure how many yards he had, but just looking at our highlights that we had, it felt like he had to be pushing 200.
Yeah, no doubt. What an impressive career he's had. Almost 4,000 yards, 54 touchdowns, and like you said, it's the first senior class to go 4-0 against a rival. They're playing really, really well. And keep in mind, we're already, almost halfway through with Kentucky. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ohio, we're already week 5, but Kentucky, they allow an off week. Their last regular season games are the 31st on Halloween. But when you're playing this well around midway point, they're going to be pretty dangerous in November when they start playoffs.
How about this one? Ashland beating Russell 42-0. You and I talked about this matchup. We didn't quite say, hey, we think Russell's going to win, but we did say if there was ever a year for Russell to win, it felt like this one. talk about picking yourself up off the mat and not letting yourself lose to someone else in your backyard. You've lost Mav Ashby. You lost to Lawrence County. You lost to Raceland. And Ashland goes into Russell and beats their rival like a drum. That's unbelievable. I mean, kudos to the Tomcats for that victory.
I say it all the time. I've said this in my sports lead-ins plenty of times. Sports is the best reality show because sometimes you can't make this up. I mean, who'd have thunk that Ashland at 2-2, Russell unbeaten and really playing well, and all of a sudden we see the score and it's like, what? Oh, and who good. Kudos to Chad Tackett and the guys there because they always have great talent. They always find a way to get big wins, and this might be a win that kind of gives those kids some added confidence, and maybe they can make a nice run towards the postseason. But that was super impressive. Kudos to Ashland stepping up off the mat big time.
And it wasn't even one of those games where it's 14-0 here, and then quarter and a half goes by, and now it's 28-0. Like it was over early. You're talking about Cam Davis, who had 126 yards, 4 touchdowns on 11 carries. That's all in the first half. Then they got him out of there. They'll be talking about that performance for years to come. Shout out to Cam Davis. We were raving about Russell's defense last week. They had only given up 6 points per game rolling into this matchup, and here Ashland hangs 42 on them. Probably a wake-up call for whatever was going on with the Russell defense there, and I'm sure they won't let it happen again. But, again, just impressive on all fronts for Ashland.
Yeah, certainly probably. That's also maybe a learning point for the Red Devils. Guys, you think you might be favored. You might be, we'll win this game, no problem, but not when it's your rival, not when the kids are pretty good athletes on the other side.
Let's talk about Raceland. They beat Newport Central Catholic 56-27. The Rams are 4-1. Of course, that Pikeville game, they're probably still kicking themselves saying, man, we should be 5-0, but nothing you can do about it now. Just go keep winning games. And Landon Stiltner made sure that they were certainly going to walk out of there and celebrate a victory over Newport Central Catholic.
Yeah, they're halfway done, 4-1, get a bye week. And maybe that might be a perfect time for a bye week. Halfway point, rest up for the stretch run because playing at Hazard is not easy. And certainly that's a win. They'd love to get to 5-1 and then get really rolling through the month of October.
And if Stiltner goes for 210 on 24 carries with 5 rushing touchdowns, I don't care who you're playing, you're probably winning the football game. That's a lot to ask, but that was the night he had on Friday. All right, Jimmy, we'll keep it in the Commonwealth. How about Belfry beating Pikeville 41-3? We know that's a good Pikeville team. We just talked about Raceland, how good they are. Pikeville beat them a few weeks back. Belfry, on their own turf here, make sure that Pikeville gets sent home with quite the loss. It's the largest margin of victory they've had over Pikeville since, I believe, 2017.
And right here on the notes, not too many teams put a running clock on Pikeville. I can't remember when the last time that's happened. Sometimes, you play your rivals that are pretty close by. Sometimes just get beat, and they got beat pretty good, but, they'll learn from it. And Coach McNamee, he'll have his guys ready for the rest of the year. J.B.
Woolham, he's been the man or one of plenty of dudes that they have there at Belfry, but he was certainly the man on Friday night. 184 yards rushing, 3 TDs, 2 of them were big hitters, an 80-yard touchdown and a 65-yard touchdown. You can't let J.B. Woolham get loose. You
Never.
Just can't. Let's cross back over into Ohio, Jimmy. This was a battle of unbeatens when we went into this thing. Wheelersburg was 4-0, Valley was 4-0, interconference matchup, Scioto County matchup. And Wheelersburg left no doubt. They win 52-7.
And that's what you have to do sometimes in a game where the numbers are similar, but if you think you have better talent, you just jump on them early. They did. 52-7 before halftime. Kenan Evans had our play of the night with a fantastic 80-yard play of the week. It was an unbelievable 80-yard run. And, of course, kudos if you see the highlights, and I'm sure you'll show it, of Rucker making a huge block downfield to help him get that touchdown. And Wheelersburg looks really, really good. Rucker also had 2 touchdowns. So the Berg is certainly ready for another massive matchup coming up this weekend.
Yeah, you got to think, Wheelersburg had an undefeated opponent on the road right before they play Ironton. Ironton has Jackson, who we know how good is, right before they play Wheelersburg. Both of them able to get the job done and make sure we get an undefeated matchup, which will probably be our game of the week on Friday. And, again, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But we'll keep it in Ohio, Jimmy. How about Colgrove going to the Coliseum and beating Portsmouth 20-14? The Hornets are 2-0 in OVC play.
Caden Murphy, solid day on the ground. He had all 3 Hornet touchdowns, almost 200 yards, 26 carries. He is just a bruiser on the field, and it's just, I'm sure, so tough to stop. 3-2 now. They're 2-0 in OVC plea. Now that Ironton's gone, that OVC is always now really interesting to see, because no longer it's the Ironton Invitational. A host of teams can now try to fight for that thing, and getting 2-0 to start with is pretty good.
And it feels like it's wide open this year. I know we talked before the season started. It felt like maybe this was Colgrove's year, and it may turn out to be that way, but Rock Hill's sitting there, so who knows how the OVC is going to turn out. It's going to be fun to watch how it shakes out in that conference. Let's get to a few additional notes, Jimmy. Those teams we talked about last week, undefeated in the SOC1, well, they still are. Sims Valley, Eastern, Notre Dame, they all improved to 5-0. And tell us who's undefeated there in Kentucky. We got two teams that are rocking it out.
Prestonsburg, 5-0. None of their opponents have a winning record, but they are dominating these games by an average of 44-16. They have a bye week, and then Knott County Central, who is 5-0 as well. That'll be a nice test in Week 6 for them.
Yeah, you can only do so much with who you have to play. So if those opponents aren't winning games, that's not your fault. All you can do is take care of business. And if you are as good as you say you are, well, beating those teams by an average of 44-16, that tells me you're a pretty good football team. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah, tell me if you've heard this before. Johnson Central still undefeated. They have such a great program now down there in Paintsville, and them not losing yet doesn't shock me at all, too.
And they've had some pretty incredible victories under their belt already. You're talking about beating Belfry and Pikeville, and I think in back-to-back weeks. Johnson Central's tough. And then we've got some undefeated still in West Virginia, too, Jimmy. Tell us who they are.
Logan, Chapmanville, Mingo Central, and Wahama still have yet to feel the agony of defeat. Just look when I get a chance to look at their schedules, maybe later today or tomorrow, just kind of see what game could be the one that gets them, if one gets them at all. I mean, they might be just so confident. The more you win, especially with high school kids, winning breeds such confidence, and if they can just keep that ball rolling, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Wahama stays unbeaten. I mean, they're the defending Class Single A champs. Mingo Central plays a tough schedule. And then Logan and Chapmanville. It wouldn't shock me if they come away with maybe a 1 or 2 loss regular season before starting playoffs.
We're going to have to see about Mingo Central's schedule because I'm not sure we've had them on Football Friday night yet. And if they're undefeated, well, we're going to have to figure that out, aren't we? We're going to have to make sure the minors are on
Someone's
here.
taking a trip down south.
Yeah, someone's going to have to gas up the whip and get themselves down to Del Barton, get up on the mountain. You want to turn the page to this week, Jimmy, because we've got a crazy slate of games.
I've been thinking about this week since last Saturday, especially when I saw the first game that kind of jumps out at you. But man, 5-0 Wheelersburg hosting 5-0 Ironton in Division 5. They're two of the top teams in that whole division, and that place is going to be nuts.
Ironton goes back to Wheelersburg for the second straight year. We're used to this thing being week 1 when you have the off-season speculation and you think you know what these teams are going to look like, but you just don't until they get out there. Well, we know a lot about these teams now.
Now they have 5 games of film to look at each other, and I'm sure both programs have spent countless of hours in the film room looking at what each has done this year to get to those undefeated records, and how can we take advantage of mistakes that they make and opportunities that they can create. I guarantee you that place is going to be hopping. Get there early.
The Ironton offense versus the Berg defense. Ironton's putting up 47.6 points per game. Wheelersburg's defense is only allowing 5.8 points per game, so something's got to give here. Wheelersburg's defense hasn't given up double digits all year long, so we'll see. It feels like, hey, Ironton can probably score on anybody, but if Wheelersburg's able to get off the field, you talk about some of those big money downs where it's 3rd and medium. Those are things that can swing a game in one direction or another depending on who wins those money downs.
And there was a game I was at, I guess I'm thinking it was probably 2 years ago or 4 years ago, where it was tight. And Ironton scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. It was one of those other games I wasn't leaving. It's like I can't leave if it's a 3 or 4 point game and one team has the ball and they could get a game winner. I would just have to hurry back to the station. But this has the opportunity to be hopefully for both teams a really close game and just have something memorable happen in the fourth quarter, because it could happen.
This is the 37th all-time meeting between these two, Jimmy. Ironton leads the series 23-14. Wheelersburg's last win was one that they'll never forget because they had gotten beat by Ironton week 1 in 2021 and then saw them on a neutral site there in Portsmouth in the playoffs, and Coach Woodward's boys were able to get them. But that's the last time Wheelersburg has beaten Ironton, 2021. And check this stat out. this just tells you how good both of these programs have been for such a long time. The last time that neither one of these teams didn't reach the regional final was 2012. So at least one of them, since 2012, at least one of them has made a regional final in each season.
And something tells me as well as they're playing, that's going to continue 13 years later.
You'd like to think.
Maybe they'll play each other.
Are you going to say that?
Wouldn't that be fun?
See them in a regional final again?
Oh my!
Back-to-back years? We just saw it last year now.
Yeah, but you know what? That brings out the crowd. That what makes it so much fun and the atmosphere.
Harvest Prep's sitting there too. If anyone from Harvest Prep listens to this, they're going to be like, hold on now. What about us? We'll see. Somebody's going to have to play Harvest Prep. I just know it. Okay, how about Cabell Midland versus Hurricane? Both of these teams are 0-4. They're probably not as bad as what their records would show, but someone's getting their first win, Jimmy.
Yeah, just I can't remember when the last time these two programs have started winless in their first 4 games, because that just shows how good they've been over the years. But sometimes you rebuild. I mean, Luke Salmons left 2 or 3 years ago, and they have a new coach, Eric Fetty, who's the kids are trying for him. I mean, they were in the GW game. I mean, it was close at halftime, and GW had an onside kick, recovered, then scored. But even that game was, touch and go until the fourth quarter when GW tacked on 14 straight points, and they had every chance to beat Spring Valley, but threw that pick late. And Hurricane is just this type of year, you just want your kids to stay positive, just keep working hard, because eventually these freshmen become sophomores, these sophomores become juniors, then it's back to what Hurricane football is used to expecting. I'm sure the coaches tell them, just got to keep fighting, guys.
Once you get one under your belt, it could snowball into a couple more.
Yeah, and you have them, at home, so that could be a huge factor as well.
How about South Charleston and Capital? South Charleston's 1-2, as we mentioned earlier. Their first win of the year was that one at Ripley. Capital's 2-1. Now, Capital did win this matchup 48-0 last year, but these are two teams that look different than they have in years past.
Yeah, South Charleston has to rely on their defense big time if they're going to try to stop David Robinson Jr. and the other talented Cougar athletes that can score in bunches. I mean, they won 48-0 last year. Of course, that was when Coach Mays wasn't there. He's back and has some good talent with him. So it'll be much closer than that, and maybe he can pull off something special like they did at Ripley in Week 1.
Sounds like this matchup is one that you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Notre Dame and South Gallia. What do you think about Notre Dame and South Gallia? The Titans are 5-0, South Gallia 4-1, and their lone loss was to Wahama. We know how good they are. This could be a pivotal result when it comes to crowning an SOC1 champion.
It's like, as we're both Roman Catholics, we have to like anyone who's Notre Dame, I guess. So, yeah, Portsmouth Notre Dame, 5-0. They've always have such great talent at that school, and just to have them playing at Spartan Stadium, that place just has so much history about it, and to take when it's a team against South Gallia where huge playoff implications are on the line and rankings, because Ohio's halfway done. So we're now on the downslide, 5 more games and it's playoff time for hopefully both schools. And so, yeah, that's looking at the schedule, and I'm once again going to defer Ironton to you. And I saw that one. I'm like, I have got to go to that game.
Yeah. South Gallia got the best of them last year, 36-8. They beat the Titans, and you mentioned how we're already getting into playoff discussions to a certain degree because we're on again the downturn of the season. I thought about that before this episode. I said, do I pull up the computer points already? Should I do that? I think I'm going to wait until after Week 7 to see. That way we can say, okay, you got 3 games left. Do you need to win all 3, 2, whatever? But this is a matchup that here in a few weeks we're going to look back at it and say that was big for that team, or even when it comes to conference championship aspirations.
And it's a great game to have at Week 6. Like, how ready are we for the playoffs? Well, both are going to find out when it's 5-0 versus 4-1.
What do you think about this OVC matchup, Jimmy? South Point and Fairland, both teams are 2-3. Dragons got their first OVC win against Gallia Academy last week. South Point still winless in conference, but they have beaten Wellston and Southern.
So you got to think the numbers favor Fairland to get to 3-3 this year. They've won also 9 in a row over the Pointers, dating back a few years. And one would think that Fairland, if they just do what they do, they should be fine to get their 3rd win of the year.
Over in the Commonwealth, Ashland 3-2 versus Greenup County, who is 2-3 right now. This is a matchup that has belonged to Ashland since the 90s, Jimmy. The last win over Ashland for Greenup County was in 1999. That's 26 straight wins
That's
over
hard
the Musketeers.
That
You
is
want
hard.
to talk about weight on your shoulder and trying to brush something off that hasn't been lifted for quite some time. That's tough.
Man, that's quite an achievement to beat the same team 26 times, especially in Kentucky, where both schools have always had great athletes, and just to do that is amazing. And I can imagine Ashland's sky high right now after what they did to Russell. So Greenup County certainly has the challenge ahead of them. Keep in mind, Ashland was at Russell and did that to them. So Chad Tackett and the boys seem to have maybe turned the corner after that first loss to Raceland, and they could start a nice little run.
Well, at least Coach Jones' boys may have found something offensively. They beat Fleming County last week and put up 52 points, their highest scoring affair of the season. So can they take a little bit of that offensive momentum into the game with Ashland? We will see. One last game to talk about, Jimmy, and this is the big bad Johnson Central Golden Eagles, 5-0 against Boyd County, who is 4-1. You talked about it earlier. Johnson Central just looks like a juggernaut.
Especially at home. I mean, they love their football so much down there in Paintsville. Wouldn't surprise me for them to go to 6-0 because it seems that they're so good at home, and they have such a stout running attack that they can just kind of ground and pound you, and then all of a sudden you're down 21-0.
And Boyd County, of course, 4-1. Their lone loss is to East Carter, who we've seen how stout they've been all year long, and offensively what they're able to do with Landon Yoke. So certainly not a slouch in Boyd County. That's a legit 4-1. We'll see what the Lions are able to do. But you got to go on the road down to Johnson County and see what you can do there at Johnson Central High School. It doesn't get any more difficult than that. All right, let's go to some other matchups then, because we can't get to everybody as much as we'd like to, but there are plenty more happening around all three states.
And trust me, folks, we keep an eye. We try to keep account of who we get and where we get to try to get at least most of the schools in our region, and we'll get you at some point. It's just with the X amount of people and stuff, so we're trying our best. So be patient. Greenbrier West is at the Man Hillbillies, and fingers crossed we'll get to Mingo Central real soon if they keep winning. And this is the game I guarantee you will be at this Friday night. Ripley at Nitro. The Vikings are going to get a nice test at home, on the road against the Wildcats.
I think you said that might be the Dominator.
Dom's going to that game.
There you go. Dominator at Nitro. Watch out. Oak Hill gets Greenbrier East. Sissonville's on the road at Ravenswood. And Riverside travels up to Parkersburg. We'll head to the next graphic here. Roane County is at Braxton County. Liberty Raleigh's at Buffalo. This is quite the matchup here. Chapmanville Regional up at Williamstown. We know how good Williamstown typically is.
George Washington, this is an interesting matchup. It's not very often you see a team go to another state in Week 5 of their regular season, but they're going to Barnesville, Ohio. See if the Patriots can keep that thing rolling. Herbert Hoover at Point Pleasant. And Lincoln County, bless them, still trying to get that first win of the year as they take on Brooke up north.
Sherman at Riverview. Spring Valley goes to St. Albans. Calhoun County is at Tulsa. We will be there in the morning for Fired Up Friday, so hopefully those guys are jacked up and ready to play some ball against Calhoun County. And then Wahama goes to Work County. Let's go over to Ohio, Jimmy. Tell us what we got.
Green Bobcats traveling to Sims Valley. How many points will the Vikings score on that night against the Bobcats? Jackson against Hillsboro. Lucasville Valley rebounding from that loss to Wheelersburg as they take on McDermott Northwest. Also Nelsonville York at Meigs. Mighty Minford Falcons going to Portsmouth West. And the Oak Hill Oaks hosting Waverly.
Vinton County's at Alexander. Waterford is at Eastern Meigs. Eastern Pike is at Sciotaville East. They're down this way. Chesapeake is at Portsmouth in some OVC action. More OVC action. You'll see Colgrove at Gallia Academy. And the Rock Hill Redmen get Purcell Marion at home.
And you can't forget about Racine Southern against Gloucester Trimble Friday night. And then River Valley heading to the Rockets of Wellston.
Finally, in Kentucky, Belfry at Pike Central, Betsy Lane at Eastridge, Phelps at Fairview, and what can the Russell Red Devils do against Fleming County, Jimmy?
T.J. Maynard, I'm sure, probably showed them the tape, and that might be a game where you just show them a little bit and say, look, we got our tails kicked. This is what we did wrong, and this is what we did the previous 4 weeks. This is what we did right. Let's get back to this team, and I'm sure he's hoping they get back on track real quickly.
Yeah. Lawrence County trying to rebound after their first loss of the season, but nothing to be ashamed of. That was a loss to a 5A school in North Laurel, so we'll see if they can get back in the win column against Letcher County Central. And then Lewis County travels to Bath County.
Magoffin County, the Yellow Jackets are at Estill County. Martin County Cardinals at Knott County Central. And this is a nice little matchup. Paintsville coming up to take on the Comets.
And then finally, Powell County at Pikeville. Again, we can't get to all of them, but we sure as heck try.
We try our best. I look at those schedules for at least a couple of hours Sunday and Monday just to try to spread the wealth, and we try our best.
We certainly do. Jimmy, anything else to leave us with before we let you go back downstairs and do whatever that it is that you do on Monday afternoons?
Man, time flies when we're having fun. Week halfway in Ohio, almost halfway in Kentucky. Next week it's halfway in West Virginia. Before long, we're talking playoffs, which is a crazy time of the year. And October's almost here, which is really fun.
Like I said, I'm giving it 2 weeks, and then I'm going to start pulling up the ratings, and we're going to start looking at if the season ended today, what brackets would look like. So,
brackets are so much fun.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Jimmy.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us up here. That man right there is James F. Treacy III. Don't you forget it. All right, that was Jimmy Treacy joining us up here in the WSAZ Now studio. A couple things to get to. Want to remind you, we've got Fired Up Friday once again happening this Friday at 6 a.m. We're headed down to Wayne County, and we're going to Tulsa, the Rebels. This is a first for the Tulsa Rebels. We have not had Fired Up Friday down there. It sounds like the feeder schools are invited. I'm hoping that Rebel Arena is absolutely packed. We need it to be an absolute rager in there. Hey, let's get after it. Let's have ourselves a party. Let's celebrate the Tulsa Rebels and everything that comes with being a Tulsa Rebel. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to get down there and see you all and jump around with you, drink some Mountain Dew, whatever it is that you intend to do, whatever it is that you usually do down there in Tulsa Rebel territory. Can't wait to experience it. With that being said, though, again, we want to remind you that this program is now at 9 o'clock, Sports Plus that is, 9 o'clock on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The high school football show will continue to air at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. The college football show will continue to air on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock. Just a schedule change. We were told that that's the golden hour. So that's what we're going to roll with. So 9 o'clock, just make sure you make a mental note of that. We'll continue to post these clips on social media. The TikTok is starting to pop off. We're upwards of 600 followers on there. We're upwards of 600 followers on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter as well. My personal Facebook, Joseph Payton, WSAZ. We want to try to get as much of this show out in front of you without you having to come to us. Not only clips of this show, though, but Football Friday Night highlights, of course. You want to send it to Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, and your buddies. Make sure you go check us out on social media because we're on there posting pretty much everything high school football related this time of year. Also, remember, we're on podcast platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Easy to find. You go subscribe. It's going to notify you every time a new episode is posted, and that usually happens right when we stream this thing. Again, 9 o'clock, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So, yeah, this has been really fun. I'm glad we've gotten some good feedback from everyone, and I hope everyone's enjoying this show. I certainly am. I know James F. Treacy III is. That's F is for Francis, by the way. So, yeah, appreciate you all joining us. I guess we will see you again next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. For now, this has been WSAZ Sports Plus.